Hey team, here we have another Facebook Marketplace find. And I'm not going to lie, when I picked it up, I thought it was going to be just a little bit bigger. But as you can see, it's quite small. So what is it exactly? Well, I don't know. I think it was a dresser. There's some holes in the back suggesting there was probably a mirror up here, but there's not a whole lot of storage for a dresser. It's so small. If you were sitting on a stool, like to get your legs under there, you'd have to be a small person. So maybe it was for a child. Now, I know a lot of people are going to get really upset by me deciding to cut this piece down the middle and make two separate pieces, but as it stands, it's just not functional. As beautiful as this top part is, it's actually completely useless as far as being functional. There's no hidden drawer or anything fancy. It really is just decorative. So I'm going to pop this backboard off and hopefully I can lift this up without damaging it, because I definitely want to incorporate it into the piece somehow. So this detail on the front here can actually come off. So I'm going to pop it off. It's just sitting on top of this block here. I just want to remove all the trim so that, just in case I do damage this top part taking it off, I can reuse this stuff here because it's pretty cool. Now I've managed to remove all of the trim. It all came off in one piece except for this one here. So that's a shame, but it should be a pretty easy fix if I do need to use this piece. Glue it back together and a bit of wood filler. I'm just going to now try and get this off, which I think is going to be the toughest part. There's a lot of glue. All right, cancel that. The plan's changed. These are just so stuck on. I'm not going to be able to get them off without damaging this oak top, and that would be a real shame. So I was actually going to leave them roughly in the same spot anyhow and incorporate a bit of a cubby hole. So just leave them as they are. Just remove these screws here, and I'm just going to remove anything else that might get in my way before I start doing a couple of cuts. Now my workshop is looking a little sad, so I'm going to take 2 minutes to give it a quick refresh. And that is looking much better. The glamour of content creation. Now you as the viewer at home get to see the pretty, beautiful, finished furniture. But what you don't see is the post-sanding body ache, the editing marathon, and the fear of my extremely messy workshop sneaking into shot and exposing me. Now I've decided to make a few physical changes to my workshop to ensure this situation is far less likely. So say hello to my new co-stars, the Flexispot E1 Plus standing desk and the Ergo X ergonomic chair. First off, this desktop is the definition of stable. Unlike some of my vintage finds, this robust one-piece worktop won't wobble when I'm having a mid-edit crisis. And it also won't collapse when I'm performing veneer replacement surgery on a 100-year-old chest of drawers. It's 25mm thick, so if you need a sturdy work surface, look no further. And now for the real show-off feature. I go from sitting to standing without spilling a single drop out of my new fancy coffee cup. And the range is awesome, from 71.5 centimeters, 116 centimeters. And it's now time to talk about the throne. The highlight is this adaptive lumbar support. It doesn't just sit there judging you for the 5-minute nap, which of course I never take, but it automatically moves to support your waist vertically, horizontally, longitudinally. Is that even a word? I may have said it wrong. And when you need to recharge the brain cells or contemplate the meaning of polyurethane, the intelligent weight sensing system makes reclining feel like you're floating on a warm cloud of extra fine steel wool. The German manufactured mesh is like aircon for your backside, breathable and sturdy. And these 3D armrests, they adjust up, down, forward, back, left, right. Basically, they have more range of motion than I do after a day of sanding, staining and waxing a piece, and then only to be told in the YouTube comments that it would have looked better if I painted it. Yeah, right. Whether you restore and make over furniture yourself or you watch people on YouTube do it while you work from home, you need to feel comfortable. Don't be a stranger to comfort. The links to these two awesome products are waiting for you in the description. But for now, please excuse me while I go and get this piece cut in half from either sitting, standing, or maybe somewhere in between. Let's go. So you're probably thinking, why didn't he just use a circular saw or something? That would have been much easier, faster. It definitely would have been faster. I just find them so messy. You just got no control over the sawdust flying everywhere. Whereas with the saw, I can just sort of do a little bit, vacuum it up, and it's quite contained. The mess is quite contained. Now, as you can see, I haven't cut in quite close enough to the side. So I am gonna have to get rid of this, and I am gonna use a power tool for that. So I'm just gonna use multi-tool with a little blade on the end, and I'll be holding the vacuum cleaner in the other hand so that I can catch as much sawdust as I can. So I just gave it a quick sand to tidy it up roughly. It still needs a lot more work, but that just got it to this point. I've got to do a wee repair here. This broke when I was sawing it off, so I'll just use a little bit of wood glue on that. And once that's taped up, I'll start just filling in some of these bigger bits with some wood filler. Alrighty, so this is probably dry now, or dry enough. Good, so I'm just going to fill this in here with some wood filler. This smaller one here, I'll probably use a wax stick, like a coloured wax stick, just to fill that in. Wood filler's, it's handy, but then you have to colour it. You have to get it the right colour, get the grain looking right. So I try to use as little wood filler as I can now. But it works quickly, it fills large holes. So it's not all bad. And when I say it works quickly, in about a minute's time, this will be pretty much hard. Alrighty, I filled the gap on this one and the other one as well, and it really has dried that fast. It's ready to be sanded. It's fast working stuff, so if you're a fast-paced restorer and you need some wood filler, that's a good one to go for. Now, I have also cut everything to size to create the two identical side tables, I suppose you'll call them. Now, these are going in our house. I want them to look as antique as I can get them. I know they're not antiques, but I want them to look like they are. So I'll strip off what I can, see how the oak is looking, and we'll go from there. I've left them for about 15 minutes. I think that's enough time. So I've set up a little bit of a production line here. So I'm just using a toothbrush to get the stripper out of those grooves. We'll get on with the rest of it. Alright, so while those are drying, I want to get these sorted out. So there's obviously a nice profile there on one end, and I just cut that, so I need to sort this end out. And I want it to match this end as close as possible. I don't have any fancy tool to make that work, but what I do have is my saw. So I'm going to make a few cuts, but it's going to be an experiment, so we'll see what happens. So I'm just going to start by making a few measurements on the end that's already got the feature end, so I'll just mark out roughly how far along that needs to be. Getting closer, just need to give this a little curve. I think just by hand might be a little bit easier than the orbital sander. Obviously it needs a bit of stain, but I think it's passable. Okay, so these are nice and dry now, so I can give them a light sand. I'm just a little bit unsure about what I'm going to do with this. I really want to keep a lot of the character. I love all the scratches and the marks and I love the way it looks, but I also want it to look like a quality piece of furniture. So I am going to sand it a little bit, and then I'm going to fix up. Obviously got this patch that we did earlier. I'm going to try and just sort of use a little bit of stain to try and colour match this to this. I know it's still looking pretty rough, but after a sand this should come up reasonably tidy. And once I've done that and filled in this hole here, I'll take another look and see whether I am going to stain the whole thing or whether I'm just going to go straight to the wax. Anyhow, I'll get going with the sanding and then we'll see what it's looking like. Alright, so I now need to blend this piece here in. So I'm just going to use furniture markers. I'll just start with the light colours and work my way up to a darker colour. I will be applying a stain to this as well, so it doesn't need to be perfect, it's just to help blend it in. I think once the stain's on, you won't really notice. Well, that's the aim of the game anyway. Alright, so even though that looks pretty appalling, I think once the stain goes on, you really won't notice it too much. So only time will tell. But for now, we'll get this hole here filled. Now I have decided I'm going to stain the whole thing. It's just a little bit varied in colours, so as you can sort of see, this is quite dark. The door's a little more kind of orange. And this is quite orange here. It's just a bit sort of messy. So I'm going to go with a dark oak. So I'll just stain the whole thing with this, and I'll go over places that I think might need a little bit darker and so forth. And I will show you what that patch looks like that I just kind of fixed up once the stain's on it as well, so you can sort of see if it blends in or if it still looks really bad. But yeah, so we'll get staining and see how we go. So it's now time to wax the wood, and I'm going to go for a Gilboys, which is generally the wax I always use. This is a rose gold, so it's slightly tinted. It always looks a little darker in the jar, but it's not as dark once it goes on. Now, because this piece does have a few kind of varied tones of brown, if there is a darker part, I'll just use the pure gold, which got no tint, and that should help with that. Now, the look I'm going for is that really kind of waxy look, so polished, kind of shiny, waxy look. So I want the wax to get right into the grain. I don't want it to be a flat, shiny polish. Anyway, that's a little bit of a bad way to explain it. Let me just show you. Now I apply wax with a really fine steel wool, and obviously I just go in the direction of the grain. For now, so you don't want to really polish it in, because you are going to come back in about 20 to 30 minutes and buff it to a smooth finish. Hopefully you can start to see what I mean there. Yeah, I just love that look. It looks old, but it looks protected. Looks like it's got history, a story. It's exactly the finish I was after. The hardware. I've ummed and ahed about what to do with this. This one I've given a little bit of a clean up with some metal polish. It's kind of like a forged kind of steel. It's cool, but this colour isn't going to work for us. What I'm going to do is try and make it look like aged brass. So I'll start by cleaning them all up with a bit of metal polish, and then we'll use a couple of other bits to transform them. Alrighty, so that's what we started with. This is with rub and buff and some paint. This one here. Then I use a little bit of wax. Rub it off. It brings off a little bit of the paint and it sort of gives it that tarnished look. So I guess it looks a little like forged brass that's not been polished to the point where it's sparkling. So I'm hoping that's a good middle ground. Just as we're wrapping the video up, I wanted to show you the the artwork on the side here. I think it's blended in pretty well. I don't know what it's going to look like through the camera. So thanks very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, please subscribe. Now the next video, which I think is coming on the 6th of December, is actually a collaboration, like a big challenge with a bunch of other furniture restorers and flippers on YouTube. There's about 20 of us, so it's going to be a really good challenge. So be sure to check that out. Thank you again for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Have a great weekend, and until next time, take it easy.